Good morning, and welcome to our Hearthfire gathering where we're going to be working with the Perthro rune. Here's our delicious Perthro rune. And we're feeling into the energy of the new moon, which means that we are tapping into the energy of the seer. And feeling into what's possible for us. We're just at this moment when there's a dark moon phase, the new moon is coming up. So this is a preparation session, and you will be seeing my live where I look at the whole lunar forecast. That will be coming out as a video shortly. But today we're focusing in on Perthro because we have a new moon in Perthro, and Perthro is also a really dominant energy for us right now. It has been since 2020. Hela's chariot, Pluto, moved into Perthro, signifying a big stretch of global change at a karmic level for all of us. So it can feel, Perthro, like a lot. It can feel like there is a lot of uncertainty, there is a lot of change. It is often thought of as being a lot cup, so a cup that you would put like dice in and then you would throw them, or runes potentially, and you would throw them down to read them. It is the flow of fate, and it can provide us with oracular revelation. And that's what we're going to look at today. I'm just going to get my tea for a moment. I can see that people are joining me. So hello, those of you who are joining me live. Let me know if you can hear me, if you can see me. If you've worked with Perthro before, do you know much about the Perthro rune? Is it a rune that you love? I know that we did a session on working with it for making space and play last week. And there were quite a few people that knew the Perthro rune really, really well. Morning. Oh, excellent. Good. I can be here. Lovely. Wonderful. And a lot of people were saying that they really love the energy of the Perthro rune. And it is a playful rune because we don't actually know what the word Perthro means. So when we talk about the lot cup or the sort of womb of possibility, we're making guesses in many ways about exactly what Perthro means. But I think that it is fair to say that it is chance and mystery and the hand of the unknown at work in our lives. What we're going to be looking at today is that energy of uncertainty. And I'm going to be suggesting for you that it is less about what we ask if we're doing a reading and more about how we ask it. So that's what we're looking at, is like, how do we actually ask our questions? And I can see, Mick, you're saying, so Perthro is secretive for me. Yeah, it is. It's a container of secrets, isn't it? And I often think about it as being like a cauldron that's pouring its contents out, but it's also sort of holding some of those secrets within this space of alchemy as well. You know, it's Suki. Hi, lovely to see you, Suki. So I'm going to invite you to feel into three things. So when we think about, what is it that's coming up for me in the coming lunar cycle? What are the themes? What are things that I would like to know about? We want to feel into, is this something that I need? And this might relate to like my essential needs, my core needs. It might be things that I need to be stable in my life, or to feel that I have support available to me. So it might be your health, your well-being. It might be your access to finances so that you can pay your bills. It might be home. It might be family. It might be relationships. It might be your connection with spirit. It's feeling into, is this theme a need? In which case, if you're asking about something that you need, a lot of people will ask the question and say, oh, will it come? I desperately need this. 2026, it's opening, and I really need this thing in my life. And we feel into the space of uncertainty, and it brings us that tight gripping, oh, what if it doesn't want to come? What if it doesn't come? And so we think, oh, I know what I'll do. And I'll do an oracle for myself, or I will go to somebody who will act as an oracle for me. And I'll ask them, I'll say, will this thing come? But the problem with that is that what that does is it gives away our power and our agency. It stops us from stepping into our magician selves. Apology, the light's going a bit funny here. The sun is going in and out. So I sort of look as if I'm bathed in darkness at this moment. The uncertainty of Perthro. It doesn't give our magician selves, the parts of us that act and take responsibility and help us to step into sovereignty. It doesn't give us anything to work with. So the types of question that you want to ask if it's a need for you are how? Now, how do I move towards what I need? What supports this need now? You might ask, or what resources are already there for me that would allow me to bring this need through and to sort of manifest this need in my life. So the questions, if you are asking something about a need, relate to how, because that keeps your sovereignty. It means that you are able to take action, and there's nothing worse in uncertainty, I think, sometimes than not being able to take action. We can feel paralyzed, can't we? So there are going to be some things that you can take action around. You may get in your reading, especially if you get the Perthro rune then comes up. You know, I'm going to ask the reading, then the Perthro rune comes up. It might be that what you need to do is a ritual of surrender, a ritual of giving the outcome for this need to the gods, you know, or whatever your spirit guides, you know, whatever it is that you feel of as being like the divine in action in the universe around you, because that is still an action. So you could write down what the need is, and you could do a ritual and offer that to the gods, and say, you know, I need this to come forward. So even if you do a reading and the outcome comes up as, you know, this is uncertain and we don't know, and you get the Perthro rune, there are still things that you can do around that to actively engage with the energy of surrender. And surrender is a word that does come up with the Perthro rune. It's that sense of surrendering to the current of fate, allowing yourself to be carried, knowing where things are going. But obviously, when you're talking about needs, you know, we need to be really careful about that, you know, and sort of say, well, how do I stay in an active relationship with those needs and actively seeking to manifest them in my life? So that's the first one. So you'll have a little bit of a play with that and think, okay, where might my needs come? Yeah, I think that you're right, Suzanne. Using Perthro and Northers together would be great. So you could use those two things together, those two runes together, and think about how would I in my ritual bring the energies of those two runes into the ritual. So you could use a candle for Northers. You might use water for Perthro, and you could combine those two energies. And obviously, fire and water work really, really beautifully anyway, and across a number of different traditions. They're beautiful for bringing through polarities and sort of the masculine and the feminine energies, the sort of the cool and the flowing and the will of the North. So you can bring those two together in ways. You don't always have to work like by making a bind rune. You can. For those of you who don't know the bind rune, a bind rune would be combining the symbols of the Perthro rune and the North rune in cunning and beautiful ways to create an invitation to the universe in that sense. But you can also work with that. Floating candles in your cauldron. You are a genius, Suzanne. Love it. That is so deeply in tune with the Perthro energy. This energy of weird flowing. And then the candles become like boats so that they hold the will. So my will remains strong, but I'm willing to move where fate takes me in order to find those needs. But what we're looking for is active engagement if you're working with needs. So our second space that you might find yourself in is going, okay, so these don't relate necessarily to needs, but they are desires. Now, lots of us will sort of feel into the energy of the new year, and we'll say, okay, what is it that I'm desiring? What is it that I would like to bring into my life that will, I think about this as increasing our life force energy, like our luck energy. I had a beautiful, delicious session with my Adrazel's Path people yesterday, where we were looking at working to increase our life force energy and our luck energy and our harminia. And I think about desire as falling within that realm. It's the difference between going, okay, I'm surviving and I'm thriving. You know, where our desires come in. They sort of feel juicy and delicious. So this will be about things like, yeah, how do you get that sense of aliveness? What gives you that? What is it that you really long for? You know, it might be that, actually, you know what, I long for spaces where I can curl up with a good book in silence for 2 hours a week, you know, ooh, you know, or to go to the forest like 4 times, you know, in the course of this year with my children. No, that's one for me that I always seek to manifest, like every year. I sort of go, okay, how can I bring this? Because this makes life pleasurable, and it invites in growth as well. You know, we can have new experiences, or experiences that we know bring us closer together, fulfill our desires for connection, for community, for creativity, you know, that go beyond the things where you might say, well, actually, some of those things are needs. But for a lot of us, that's filling the cup, isn't it? Which, again, with Perthro, if you think about it as being a cauldron and put it on its side like this. If you're having your needs fulfilled, the cauldron might be sort of, it's there and there's stuff in it and you're okay. But if you're going into the space of desire, it's sort of brimful now. It's brimful and you're feeling replete and you're feeling excited for life. So what are the things that would bring you excitement? And in this case, don't ask like what will happen. So don't sort of say, oh, I'd really like to do, I would really like to do that. Might those come up? For me, you can say like, how can I invite these things in? So you might say, for example, I'm going to put a post out there with my friends and say, I'm really looking forward to doing this, or I'm getting in contact with the people who I would love to spend time with and say, I'm just put it out there this year. I'd really love to spend more time with you. Or I'm putting it out there that I want to do a fire walk. I love a fire walk. Do you love a fire walk? Love a fire walk. And you're stating your intentions and you're inviting in support that way as well, because you may well get somebody else who then goes, oh, yes, I want to do a firewalk, or actually I'm doing one. Why don't you come with me? And then it's also, if you think to yourself, well, there are things that I really want to do, but I don't have the resources or I don't have the time or the energy to do them. Put that out there as well. There will be people out there who are invested in helping you to achieve those desires, who want that for you. So what opens those doors to that invitation for desire would be the question that you would ask. And it's worth bearing in mind with oracles that often when you ask the right questions, you already start to get some solutions popping up into your mind. You go, oh, I could do this or I could do that. And so if you then go and do a reading or you go and consult with somebody, they might give you more possibilities, or they might do what I think of as being really important with the relationship between an oracle and a querent or a client or a friend, whoever it is that what they do is by offering those possibilities to you, by sort of creating a field where they're able to say, oh, I can see this possibility and this possibility and this one for you. That speaks directly to your seer self, so that it's not them, it's not their seer who's saying you should do this. In order to meet that desire, you should go out on Tuesday and find a stranger wearing a hat who will answer all these questions for you. Sorry, it's a bit facetious, but you get what I mean, is that often because we feel so uncertain and we worry about getting it right and we worry about being visible or seen or asking for what we want, we can go, oh, I just want that certainty. And Perthro says there is no certainty. There's only a shaping. There's only an invitation to. And it does invite us into risk-taking a little bit as well. So you might say, I've got some ideas, and then I go to an oracle who might say the same ideas, and you go, oh, that really resonates. Or it might be that when it's said in their voice, you go, oh no, that's actually not the right way. Or they might offer something completely different to you. So you're asking the questions, what can I do to invite these desires into my life in this coming lunar cycle or in this coming year, is a sort of question. So much more about what questions if you're thinking about a desire. And then we get that space of curiosity. We have this deep curiosity about what might be possible that I don't even know about, experiences that I haven't even considered would be possible for me. This is the space of wonder, of wonder and opportunity and serendipity and exploration and adventure, very, very much in keeping with our Perthro rune here. And for those ones, you absolutely can just ask the question, just ask, what's possible for me this year? Or say, can we do a year ahead reading? I love doing the year ahead reading. I haven't actually factored it into our rune community circle this year. I might have to see if I can put the recording out for something for you, or share the reading with you, because it's a beautiful year ahead reading that we love to do with the 9 mothers. But there's lots of different year ahead readings that you can do where you say, what might be available to me? And this is about the energy of curiosity and expanding your understanding and your own limits as to what's possible for you through the course of this year that you might never have even considered. It's saying try this or try that. Oh, you've done your year ahead reading, Suzanne. Yes, absolutely. So those year ahead readings, very much for me, I think about them as being in the realm of curiosity. If we're sitting there with the need of going, I really need this thing to manifest for me in this coming year, we can't receive the full reading because we're looking for the part that says, oh yes, in this month it will be okay, or in this month it won't be okay. So it's not actually a year ahead reading. It's I want reassurance reading. And I'm not saying that sometimes, there are very powerful people who have amazing abilities to, say, yes, this will happen or that will happen. And certainly I've had people come back to me and said, wow, the year ahead reading, I did it and it was sort of spot on. And that's lovely, isn't it? It's lovely for us. But if we are limited by that, if we are limited by, I need to know that this thing will be all right, we're not able to fully step into the possibility of magic that's available to us. So this is why I think it's worth distinguishing those things and reserving your energy of curiosity for your year ahead readings. So have a little bit of a think into that. And I'd just like you to just take a moment then at this point to feel for yourself as to what are the things that you know that you need in the coming year, and just to feel into your body whether that feels like a sort of a light holding, whether it feels like a gripping hold. And you could see with the Perthro, where I put it, you could almost see it like a hand that if it's closed, that's upside down. If the Perthro is closed, nothing can come in, nothing can enter the cauldron, because we're desperately holding on to our own understanding of how this might manifest for us, or how it was in the past, or I don't want. It could be a negative energy of I've had this illness or something all the way through the previous year, and the closed energy holds it on. That's exactly what's going to do. And yeah, Suzanne, you said about the year ahead reading, asking what energies are around. It's a curiosity. That's a curiosity energy, whereas what's going to happen is more of a, sort of an anxious energy. So we don't want that anxious energy. So if you feel that there's something that's a need, you're going to want to do a different reading around the how, as I've said. So you can have a little bit of feel into that and sort of feel into your tummy, feel into your chest. What are the things that I really need? And if you feel that tightness, then there are lots of other things that you can do. You can work with the Perthro rune. You can do a lot of energy work, movement work, to allow yourself to open more like the Perthro rune as well. If you're feeling that really strong grip, even after you've found some things that you can do that are active, or you've done your surrender ritual, as we were talking about, surrendering those things to the gods. And then I'm going to invite you to do the same with the energy of desire, and to sort of feel, what are the things that I am inviting in at this point? What are the things that I really would love to open my arms out wide to, so that you then take the shape of the Perthro rune with the shoulders, and you bring the arms out. So you can actually do that. And I think we might just do that together for a little bit, just for a moment, if that feels good to you. So if you're going to do a meditation with your eyes closed, I always recommend that you're sitting down. And this is one that you can do with your eyes closed, and then you can open your eyes. I think that can be quite fun. So I would start sitting down with this one if you can, or if you're happy with your balance, then go ahead and close your eyes for a moment. So you're going to bring that position, that Perthro rune energy in, and then you're going to breathe. And as you're breathing, I'm going to invite you to breathe out more fully on the out breath, so that you're expelling more energy. And then when you breathe in, you will notice that more air enters your body, so that you are releasing all of this stagnant energy, which is the things that you're holding on to. So I'm breathing shallowly because I'm in the space of need, in the space of uncertainty potentially. And I'm saying, no, I'm willing to let go of all my expectations, all of my anxieties, all of my uncertainties as I breathe out. So just doing that again. Breathing out. And then breathing right into your belly. And you can just do that a few times, breathing out in your own time, breathing in your own time. When you breathe in into the belly, because we've got the shape of the Perthro rune with our arms. And if your arms get tired, you can put them down, that's fine. But you've also got the shape of the Perthro rune with the pelvic bowl, with the hips, with the hip bones. So you're breathing right down into the pelvic bowl, which is also the zone of the seer. Now that's where our seer lives. And so you're letting your seer take responsibility for those needs, for those desires, and for those areas of curiosity, rather than keeping them either in the space of the sage, who's like, I will achieve this through hard work alone, is with the sage, or through simply dreaming about it with the mystic. We have to bring it all the way down, and then we've got our active centers of the healer and the magician, which we need. We go down into the seer. We draw those things in. and it's a cup, it's opening. And it's not grasping, it's not a grasping energy. And then we let go on the out breath. No forcing. No. Letting those things come through. So you can have a little bit of a play with that. And if you were to move into the energy of curiosity, you'll know that I mentioned that if we're looking at need, we're often holding on to what's already in our cup and we're not able to receive more. If we're in the space of desire, the Perthro rune is full. It feels that sense of fullness and deliciousness. If we're in the space of curiosity, it's literally overflowing. No? And we are sending out that, what you want is the energy of excitement and anticipation. You know, what could be possible? What could be possible? What am I willing to take some risks into? You know, where am I willing to play? If you remember the previous live, we did that energy of play. Where am I willing to play? And then the energy overflows and it goes out into the universe. And it says, oh, yes, Maggie's sending some lovely messages that she's ready for some play and opportunity and serendipity. Let's send them her way. You know? So that's why I'm working with that. Just very, very short working, literally the arms up, working into the breath, feeling those energies of need and desire. You can do some writing. You go, where's my energy? What's in need? And then you can sit for a while. And then you can ask the same question, what's my energy of desire? Feel that energy with the Perthro rune again. And then you can do that, what's my energy of curiosity? So you can alternate. And that's a really good mini ritual for building the bridge of connection back between your sage, the part that expresses, that says, this is what I want or what I desire or what I need, and the seer, who is the space of our discernment and our intuition. So when we do that, we're literally building a bridge between the two. Okay, so I hope that that's been interesting for you. Let me know how that felt for you. Go away, experiment with that meditation. You know, see what comes through for you. If you're feeling into, I want to have a reading done, you can do that piece first, and it will give you a lot more discernment so that when you go to work with a reader, you've already done a lot of the sacred play work. And if they're a good reader, they're going to respond really well to that, and you'll get a lot more richness from your reading. Okay. So I'm going to ask you now to feel into what's the rune that you're working with at the moment. And it might be that the rune that you're working with actually supports you in going, oh, this feels like a rune that is supporting me in the needs that I've identified, or in the desires that I've identified, or in the curiosity that I have identified. Now, how does the rune that you're working with right now, because it might not be Perthro, how does it resonate with those energies? So I'm going to invite you to share. Oh, I need to get my pencil out, don't I? Otherwise, I won't be able to write down as good. Share what rune you're working with right now, and we will see how that rune works with Feyu. So Suki's got in there, excellent, with your Feyu rune, with the Perthro energy. I can see, let me see. Oh, I feel a lot better about Perthro now. Thanks. Oh, I'm glad. I'm really, really glad. Yeah, it's, I think that sometimes when Perthro comes up, it can respond so fiercely. We can get such a fierce response based on the uncertainty energy that's available around us all of the time in the world, not only just in our own lives, but in the world. And we can have those sort of anxiety responses. And actually, it's a much wider field, and it contains within it the power for us to move through uncertainty. That is its gift, is to help us to move through uncertainty in the same way that North is, speaks to our needs and contains within itself our ability to then move through our needs and work with them. Sarah's saying, tingles in my fingers and hands as I lift my cup on curiosity. Ooh, I love it. And it does, the runes do, particularly if we chant them, which obviously we haven't done today. I'm slowly working, because we're starting on YouTube, with making sure that the mic's working and that you can hear me and all of those things. I'll be trying to make sure that we can do some chanting and like deeper voice work and things like that in some of our future lives. We're not doing that today. But that tingly sensation, very, very powerful when we work with the individual runes and where we feel them in our body. And they can also speak to the different energy centers in our bodies and go, oh, my seer wants to respond to this. So actually, no, this is my sage is talking to me. So lots of fun that you can do there. Tewaz for Suzanne. for the year, and today's rune, Athala. Oh, we've got Tewaz in it. So we'll stick with Athala for you because that's today's rune. But Tewaz is a really interesting energy because it comes after the Perthro rune. They're quite close together in the rune row, but it's very focused and direct. And sometimes they can feel like they clash. So actually working with Tewaz and Perthro can be quite useful in making peace between the part of us that wants to move forward and say, I want to achieve this and I want to do that. Tewaz, I want to be successful and victorious. And Perthro that says, well, victory or success might look different to what you think that it looks like. So they can actually be in tension with each other. But obviously the runes, whatever challenge the runes present for us, they also present the answers if we work with them, if we invoke their energies, if we invite them into our lives, if we immerse ourselves in their stories, then they do energetically support us in finding those answers too. So we'll stick with your Athala rune, Suzanne. So Suki, our Fey rune and our Perthro rune, to me, this speaks undeniably of Herminia, which is we've already talked about. So Herminia is, so it's a concept that if you feel it in the body, it feels like Perthro, it feels like Fey. It's this flowing energy, very associated with Freya, life force energy, amber, the dragon moving under the earth. It's warm energy. It's an energy that we need for healing. Captain of Fey energy, just saying, absolutely adore it. It is literally the blood moving through the body, that rich red life force energy going to every cell in the body. And we can get, Fey energy can get stuck. Can get stuck in the body, and then we can feel cold, we can numb, we can get illness, in different parts of the body that aren't resonating well with the Fey energy. So that's how it feels in the body, but it's represented in lots of different ways. So Herminia energy is considered to be part of the soul complex of an individual. It's connected with the body, but it's also connected in with the realm of the living. So you can't take your Herminia with you when you die. That's it. It doesn't travel well into the realms of the dead. It's quite disruptive to them. They don't really like it because it's a call back into life. So we can use the Fey energy, which we've been talking about on a Drazzle's Path and working with quite a lot this cycle. So I'm excited because we're just coming to the end of this year's cycle. We can raise Fey energy to invite the dead and to speak to us, which they can't do otherwise. And that's why we give them offerings and things like that, life force offerings like food or song as well, our living energy offerings. So Herminia is that living energy. But it can also be conceptualized as spirits that exist outside of us that are often connected in with clan, which is interesting with the Athala rune. Maybe that's why these two runes have come up, that we've got these two today. And so you can interact with your Herminia as a spirit being. Now, I definitely have one spirit being who is an active Herminia bearing force, who I work with for magics around home and land and wealth and abundance. And they often connected themselves to the head of household, who would then act as a conduit in many ways, so that when that person passed, they would, either instinctively, or consciously pass that Herminia force energy onto somebody else in the family. And that Herminia, to a certain extent, had some agency in that and would say, yes, this person is sort of worthy to carry that, or no, they are not. So with the Perthro coming through, it feels as if there is what's the word I'm looking for? That you can have uncertainty in relation to the Fey rune, because it can mean that the Fey energy moves very fast, almost as if resources are pooling in and then they're exiting very, very quickly. So what you might want to look at is working with the Perthro rune in this shape to say, where in my home are there places where Herminia energy is invited to circulate? And let me know if you want to know more about that. But it's very similar to the like the little laughing Buddhas. It's a similar concept, or the idea of feng shui, but it's obviously a whole different paradigm of working. But that's how you might think about it, is that it is really looking at your home space and saying, where are the spaces where that Herminia energy, I'm not seeking to capture it. So you don't want closed vessels, but you might have a bowl with coins in, for example, representation of money, or other forms that represent life force energy. The plants that are in your home, for example, can be wonderful representations of life force energy. You might work with things like your store cupboards or your fridge, like food, and actually empower them with Feiyu energy and Perthro energy, recognizing that these are also forms through which life force comes. So it's really thinking about life force and luck as being an energy that is continually flowing through your stead, through your home, and then working with it. So that's what I've got for the Feiyu Perthro combination. Now, Athala, I can find Athala with my cards. Where have I put my cards? Can't even see where I put the cards now. We wouldn't be doing that then. Oh, there you go. They're under my paper. Athala is also a rune of wealth. So it's interesting that those two have come up together in the session. But it is fixed wealth. So when I was saying it was that instinctively for me, it was about stead, and that I think that was specific to you, Suki, but obviously everyone can work with that way. But I think it also connected in with the Athala rune. Athala is the rune of the home or the hearth or the land itself. And it might be the land that you are in. It might be the building that you are in, but it might also be the land on which you are. Here's the Athala rune. So you can see that it's quite stable. It's got its 2 feet on the ground. And the problem with the Athala rune is that it does fix energies much more strongly. So this would be where, again, I'm feeling that interaction between Feiyu and Athala. So perhaps Suki and Suzanne, your 2 readings are bouncing off each other and resonating with each other. When our ancestors worked with the dead, they would work with the ancestral energies of the dead, and for a long period of time, the sort of Germanic peoples, the Northern European peoples, they were nomads. They were moving across the land, and the only fixed spaces that they had were the burial spaces where their ancestors would be, and otherwise they would be moving with the herds, with the herds of aurochs, for example, the Urus rune. And so the dead became this place that was a place that you would visit and that you would go to, and there would be a particular form of richness there, a relationship with the dead, with holding of wisdom, a feeling of stability that we can sometimes become constrained and trapped by because we have very different concepts now of where that Athala energy is. We don't go to, a lot of us, don't go to cemeteries. We don't have a good relationship with death. We don't think about being in active and continual relationship with our dead and being able to access their wisdom. And the Athala rune brings that. But what's coming through to me is this stark contrast between the sense of our relationship with our ancestors and us traveling across the land and then going to these fixed spaces and working with the dead for periods of time, is then almost being trapped in either our homes or in our jobs, in sick buildings sometimes, or in spaces that we can feel define us, And I'm saying, what do I need to do in order to ensure that the space that I'm in is not defining me, and that I'm working in active relationship with it, and I am having sovereignty within this space, so that it feels like mine. And there is a sense in which when we do that, it also then invites the Feiyu life force energy to come through more strongly, because otherwise we are inviting in the energy of the dead, this sort of fixed, structured energy, too much, into our home spaces. So we want that beautiful balance of the Feiyu energy warming and energizing the Athala energy. So having a flame, a candle, or some description, making sure that you light it every day, place for the hearth, really, really important for maintaining that relationship between those 2 runes. The other thing that comes through, and I think this is specific, Suzanne, just feeling into the Athala rune alone without the Feiyu energy, for me would be about recognizing that we know so little about our family trees now. We have, we can go and we can do the research and things like that, but I do feel that probably our ancestors had a bit better handle. They were much better oral history keepers than we are. We rely on books now and we think, oh, books are the truth. But human beings would have handed down the stories of their families generation after generation after generation, because they knew that it wasn't going to go in a book. Who the incredibly, incredibly rich and powerful people were the only people who had any form of rune inscription done that said, Cheryl was here. It was basically all they could really manage even then. But the telling of story and the sharing of like personality was a form of communion between the living and the dead that we have to a certain extent lost. And I think what's coming through here is a recognition that you are built from the blood and the bones and the stories of the ancestors. Right? So there will be in your ancestral family tree somebody who understands you, or a collection, a group of people who understand you totally, and who literally look down on you and just go, wow, how awesome is this person? They are amazing. And they are so interested in our stories. Each one of us has a hero's journey, has a heroic life that we have been through. And it might be that we're like, oh, I'm not going to tell everybody else about it, but the ancestors are interested. They always want to know. So when you speak about yourself and what you're going through, but also how brilliant you are in rising to the challenges that you are facing every single day, it's recognizing that to your ancestors, you are the story. You are the living story that they invested themselves in, that they wanted. So they are there and they are supporting you and cheering you along. So again, if we think about our hearth spaces, we've talked about creating spaces for Herminia energy to come through. We've talked about creating a flame, and also having a space where we're able to say, and this is my invitation to my ancestors here. It can be really, really powerful and really, really helpful. So that's what is coming through for me from those two runes. Interesting that you're saying I'm feeling very trapped in my two runes. So thank you. Okay, so I'm really inviting in that Feo energy and that Perthro energy to clear that relationship with those spaces. And I think also maybe for you, recognizing that space itself, we can expand it by moving into the space of going, there are atoms in my body that are vibrating. There are atoms in the air that are vibrating. And recognizing that there is a whole cosmos inside the space that you are in that you can interact with and work with on an energetic level to change that space and to invite in the energy of, the new lunar cycle, the energy that we're working with is freedom. So we've been working on endurance through the course of this cycle. We're moving into freedom. So look out for my video that I'm going to be doing about this coming lunar cycle and how we can work with the energy of freedom. Just to say, the Sooner Star Wheel, that will be coming out as well. So if you are looking to enter into a deeper relationship with the runes and with yourself, experiencing and accessing your wild voice, your own oracular wisdom, then absolutely, Sooner Star Wheel is the right place for you to be. And through the course of this month, up until the end of January, it is £9 a month. To get all of those things and the community rune circles is a really, really great time to go, yes, I want to step into Sacred Play right now, because it's a really, really brilliant investment for you at this point. So if you're not a member of Sooner Star Wheel, I really encourage you to sort of look it up, ask any questions that you have for me about it, and take out your membership. Because yes, I didn't want to do anything about like there are special offers and things like that over Christmas and Yule. It's a time of quietness, isn't it? But I am looking, there's lots of exciting opportunities for working with me. Coming up, I will be talking to you soon about the Sage Retreat, which is coming up in February, which I'm very excited about. And Awaken to the Runes, also the doors are open there starting in June, but there are lots and lots of resources already there open for the early bird offers that I've got available too. So that is where we are. Lovely to see all of you. Thank you so much for joining me, whether you are here live with me right now or whether you are watching the recording. Wishing you many blessings for the week ahead and for the new moon to come. It has been a delight as always.